everything.
Alright guys, we are back in free code camp, CodeCademy. Sometimes you go on autopilot, man. It's introduction to JavaScript. We're in the control flow section, control flow. Now what is control flow when we're talking about programming? It's going to be if statements, else statements, things that are basically going to lead our code left, lead our code right, or lead us down various paths of success or failure. So that's probably the easiest way is to take a look at some examples and go ahead and do it. You'll see on the right here it's saying if this statement is true, print out finding coffee, else keep on keeping on. Meaning if this statement is false, or if this variable is false, go ahead and do the false statement. If it's true, do the true statement. So we're gonna go ahead and create a variable here called Harry Potter fan, which I'm going to assume is true because which one of us is not a Harry Potter fan? Now what we're going to do here is say if Harry Potter fan. Now by us not actually setting this value, it's just checking if it's true by default. So we're going to say if that's true, do this. Then we want a console.log mischief managed. Else, so this is going to be for the else statement is going to be for when it is false, or if it is false. We want to go ahead and put console.log I lead muggles. So you'll see right here, because we're trying to put this this extra quotation, we need to put a backslash into it, like so that the IDE, so our JavaScript knows that this is a quotation within a sentence, rather than a quotation denoting a new creation of a string. If quotes are very important, another way of doing this is we could use double quotes on the outside and sing a single quote on the inside, and that would work as well. Let's go ahead and run this. So we should get mischief managed, which we do right here. So this is true, so therefore it puts out the true statement. Now we can go ahead and change this to false, and we would see I lead a Muggle's life, or Muggle's life. So when dealing with our if-else statements, we're not always checking just a straight true or false value. Sometimes we'll have to compare some things, and that's when we're going to use less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, and that will return a true or false value within our if statement, and from there we'll do our code. So we're going to go ahead and create a variable called hunger level, and we're going to set this equal to 5. Now we're going to say if hunger level is greater than 7, we want to console.log time to eat. So what does this mean? It's saying, look, compare this, whatever the value of this is, to this, and if it returns true, do this. If it doesn't, do nothing. So we're going to go ahead and change that do nothing to do something, our else statement, saying if that statement's false, do this. And we just want to go ahead and console.log let's eat later. And again, we're going to be doing the /. Go ahead and run that. So run it once. You'll see right here that it's going to say let's eat later, so we're not that hungry. But now we're going to go ahead and change the hunger level to 10 so that we can see that our code works. You'll see right now it displays time to eat because now this evaluates to true. So we're only doing one of them when we're doing an if or else statement. So don't forget that. in the way that we're setting it up right now. So we're going to go ahead and create a variable here called moon phase, and we're going to set it equal to a string with the contents of full. Now, I'm just going to run that. So we're going to go ahead and write an if statement that says if moon phase is equal to this string, we want it, we want to console.log out some stuff. What is it that we want to log out? We want to log out how with 4 W's and 3 L's and 2 exclamation points. But if it's not equal to full, or in our else statement, we want to console.log, I swear I am not a werewolf. Just gonna change that, run that. So this basically is just saying that this is evaluating to true because we're checking the value of this, and it returns full. Now, it looks like we're going to go ahead and get a little more complicated real quick. Excuse me. So, if the moon is mostly full, log arms, legs are getting hairier. Okay, so we're going to do a different statement. We're going to use a new control flow element called else if. So else if only runs if the if statement before it fails. So once we hit a true statement, even if we have 100 else if, it's not going to go through the rest of the 100 else if statements because we already hit our true statement and it breaks. So let's go ahead and continue on. So if the moon is mostly full, so we're going to do an else if here. It says else if. Else if. So else if the moon phase is equal to mostly full, we want to say console.log arms and legs are getting hairier. That's very detailed. If the moon is mostly new, so we'll do another else if here. And we want that to say so if the moon phase is mostly new, I'm going to go ahead and output back on 2 feet. And then if someone enters an invalid moon phase, make sure let's go and run this first. I think it wants us to change this else statement. Right, else if statement for if the moon phase is mostly new. I did. So we have full, mostly full, mostly new, else mostly new, back on 2 feet. Let's see what happens when we change this to mostly new. back on 2 feet. So, I think our last statement here needs to be invalid moon phase. I think that's where it's breaking. Interesting. So somehow our logic, I don't think our logic's breaking. I just think something's weird going on here. It's one of those things where the IDE is being weird. So let's go ahead and see what we're doing here. So this is good. So we have moon phase, good house, else if, mostly full. Oh, it wants us to use triple equals here. So the difference between double equals and triple equals is double equals checks the value. For instance, let's say we have a string with the digit 5 into it, and then a triple equals will check the value, and double equals would return true if we're comparing those. And a triple equals will not only check the value, but it will also check the data type. So if you have the string 5 and a number 5 and use double equals, it will return true. However, if you have a string 5 and a number 5 and use triple equals, because it's checking the data type and the value, it will return false. And it looks like that's what they want us to do here. There we go. So we want to go ahead and set the moon phase to mostly full. So let's go ahead and change this real quick. And then we want to change this to mostly new. And now we want to set moon phase equal to a solar eclipse. Since there's not an else if statement, it should return invalid moon phase, which it will. Very cool. So let's continue on here. Alright, so now we're going to kick up our if statements, else if statements up a bit. So let's go ahead and create a new variable called foggy night. And it looks like we're going to set this equal to a boolean of true. Let's go ahead and run this. The next thing that we're going to do is start adding and conditions or conditions. Now in an and condition, it's all the conditions connected with the and must be true. If one of them fails, they all fail and the statement is false. Now in or condition, if any of the statements are true, it passes and it's true. So we could have 100 ors in a single if statement, and if just one out of the 100 is true, that statement's going to pass. So what is it then? The first condition is to make sure that moon phase is equal to full and foggy night is equal to true. So this is an and condition. It's going to run that. So just the one condition. Do you set the moon phase to full? I did not. So let's go ahead and set this to full. So this is going to howl out because this is true and this is full. So we're going to go ahead and change it to false, and now that will fail. So we're going to get an invalid moon phase because we don't have a full in an else if statement. You can also put a not in front of this, and this would be not equal to true. It'll check for that, and we have our or condition as well. We'll probably dive into that in the next section here. So it looks like we're going to be doing switch statements. Switch statements are used when you know what the value is going to be. You're going to have a switch which is going to check a value, and then a case which is going to say, look, if that value is any one of these things, go ahead and do this. In our example, we're going to go ahead and log out the value, log some stuff out, or we may run some code. It really just depends on what we're doing. Switch statements are really great when you have a lot of things that you're checking, that you're just checking what the value is. So let's go ahead and convert our werewolf program to a switch statement. For now, let's also delete foggy night, so we'll get rid of that. And moon phase will be the condition for the. So give me a second. I always forget. Yeah, switch. So we're gonna start off with a switch here. And what are we switching on? We're switching on the moon phase. This is basically the variable that we'll be checking for our cases. So we have, let's see, we have full, mostly new. So we're gonna have a case here of the value. So the first one's gonna be full. And then what do we want to do? We want to go ahead and take this console.log and throw it in here. Now with switch statements, you need to make sure to break the statement as well. So that's something that you're going to have to do in switch statements. Then we have a case here of mostly full. So if our moon phase is mostly full, let's go ahead and do some stuff as well. And what do we want to do? We want to say our arms and legs are getting hairier. And then again, you're going to have to break the statement. And then we're going to say mostly new and back onto feet here. And the case is going to be mostly new. So if our moon phase is mostly new, we want to do this. And then we're going to break that. And then similar to our else statement, we have a similar to this, we need to have a default statement. That's basically our else, or if all else fails, go with the default here. I'm gonna go default, and then we need to break that as well. I believe we break that, yes. So that's how a switch statement works. You have one value that you're checking, and then for each case, it's basically an if statement. If it's this value, do some stuff, you break it, and then your default is the kind of the else statement. If all else fails, do the default. So we're going to be using the math library. We're going to create a variable called random number. And we're going to set it equal to a random number between 0 and 100. So if we call the math library and then a random, then we times it by 100, this will generate a number between 0 and 100. Math.random by default generates a random number between 0 and 1, and then when we multiply that number by 100, it goes between 0 and 100. Excuse me. We also need to go ahead and console.log that out. So you'll see right now we're logging out a random number. Now we don't want these decimal places, so we're going to use another part of the math library, and that's the floor function. And when we call math.floor, it will allow us to eliminate a set amount of numbers for math. We'll eliminate some of the. It will allow us to eliminate decimal places, is what I'm trying to say. And you can also, it takes in a parameter, so if we wanted to go ahead and change that so that we wanted it to be to the second decimal place or anything like that, you could do that with math.floor as well. It looks like they just want a whole number in this case. So that was our control flow. What did we learn from this? We learned if and else statements. If true, do this. If false, do this. We learned how that's kind of related to switch statements as well. Check the value, then check the cases, and then the default is kind of like the else. We also learned the comparison operators, less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. We learned the logical operators, which is and, or, not equals. Well, we didn't actually use the not equals, but it's basically just checking to see if it's the opposite of something. If it's not true, not equal to true, it would be checking if it's false. We also learned how to generate a random number using math.random and how to get rid of decimal places using math.floor. A lot of stuff in here, a lot of the core building blocks of JavaScript. So definitely, if you struggled with this, watch the video once, twice, 3 times until it clicks. This is something you're going to need to know along with everything else. But as always, guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and support me on Patreon. I appreciate it. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching the video. Special thanks to our sponsor, Dev Mountain. Definitely check them out at devmountain.com. If you're looking for a bootcamp that's in front-end development, iOS, or UX, go ahead and give them a shot. Tuition includes housing, so you can get up and go and fully immerse yourself in the program. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.